My name is H.A. Goodman, and I'm an author, columnist, and journalist. To read all my writing and my latest articles on politics and sports, go to counterpropa.com. My latest article in Counter PROPA is also in the Huffington Post, and it is the only way to defeat Trump is to defeat the Democratic establishment, which ties into why I believe Trump's media ban is justified. I will explain my thoughts pertaining to Trump's media ban in 1 second. I'll read you an article describing what's going on. First off, this is not in support of Trump's policies. I don't agree that a wall preventing undocumented immigrants from coming over, from being hired by Americans, which the whole issue, the entire controversy, is because Americans hire illegal undocumented immigrants. The reason that we have a refugee crisis globally from Syria and other Middle Eastern nations is because of U.S. foreign policy, destabilizing Iraq, Libya, Syria, Afghanistan. All of these problems we face, whether it's undocumented immigrants or refugees from Syria, all we have to do is look in the mirror. It's our fault, initially. U.S. foreign policy, and in terms of Americans who hire American corporations and individuals who hire undocumented immigrants. That being said, so I don't believe an immigrant ban helps the country, and I don't believe a wall helps the country. And I've written a lot about that. But Trump is right. When it comes to a newspaper, a public relations firm like the New York Times, or let's say media corporations like CNN, when you have Bernie Sanders debating Hillary Clinton, and every single writer in the Washington Post and the New York Times and every pundit at CNN is saying that Hillary Clinton won. She beat Bernie Sanders in every single debate. Then you have the same people saying, oh, Trump is a danger, and Hillary beat Trump with the shimmy. It was fantastic in every single debate. You don't have a Walter Cronkite anymore. You don't have a media that's looking out for the interests of the United States of America. You have a media beholden to the Democratic establishment, and the Democratic establishment is the reason we have Donald Trump as president. If you can't see, if you're progressive and you're watching this and you're saying, oh, HA is an apologist for Trump, if you can't see that the Democratic establishment ushered in a Trump White House and is working for 8 years of Trump, you're the problem, not me. And it's not Trump's media ban that's the problem. I'll read you. Trump White House bars news organizations from press briefings. Nothing like this has ever happened at the White House in our long history of covering multiple administrations of different parties, said the New York Times editor. The White House blocked several news outlets from attending a closed-door briefing Friday afternoon with Press Secretary Sean Spicer, a decision that drew strong rebukes from news organizations and may only heighten tensions between the press corps and the administration. The New York Times and CNN, both of which have reported critically on the administration and are frequent targets of President Donald Trump, were prohibited from attending. The Huffington Post was also denied entry. I am upset about that. That is he should have allowed the Huffington Post, not because I write, not because I'm published, because the Huffington Post allows people like me to be published. And I'm pro-Bernie, and I'm very critical of pro-Tulsi Gabbard, Jill Stein, very critical of the Democratic establishment. And I'm probably one of the most lenient or objective pertaining to Trump. I'm published in the Huffington Post. I've been on CNN, but the New York Times, never in a million years would they allow that type of voice. So the Huffington Post should have been allowed entry, but the New York Times and CNN, both the Associated Press and Time Magazine, which were allowed to enter, boycotted out of solidarity with those news organizations kept out, which makes no sense at all. Okay, Spicer said prior to the start of the administration that the White House may skip televised daily briefings in favor of an off-camera briefing or gaggle with reporters. Nothing like this has ever happened. Okay, we strongly protest the exclusion of the New York Times and other news organizations' free media. It's not free media. Free media access to a transparent government is obviously crucial, is obviously of crucial national interest. CNN suggested in a statement the Trump White House was retaliating against certain news outlets over their coverage. Politico editor-in-chief said in a memo that, to staff, after also being excluded to that newsroom, management plans to very vigorously assert and defend independent media's right to cover the institution of the presidency. Number one, the media is not independent. Number two, the media went after Bernie Sanders before it went after Donald Trump, this is not an ideological issue. This is not about policies being defended or attacked or criticized because it's good for the country. Because Bernie's policies were good for the country. In fact, the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN, all of the Daily Beast, all of these Slate, all of these liberal to moderate left-of-center publications or news outlets, they agreed with Bernie Sanders on everything. Pretty much everything in terms of ideology. The only reason they went after him is because he was a threat to the Democratic establishment. That's the big issue. Ask yourself, if you disagree with me, ask yourself, why did they go after Bernie? Why did they go out? Why did all of these news organizations, the New York Times, CNN, didn't necessarily go after Bernie, but it was always about the coronation of Hillary Clinton. And it was, Donna Brazile, CNN severed ties with Donna Brazile because she fed questions to Hillary Clinton. Nothing in terms of the scandals, in terms of the FBI criminal investigations. None of these pundits, none of these writers asked why Hillary Clinton had a private server. What was the reason? They never accused, they never made the obvious accusation or connecting of the dots that they would have with Trump, which is that she was jeopardizing national security by putting Special Access Program intelligence alongside yoga emails to circumvent Freedom of Information Act laws. If you're wondering, well, what does that have to do with Trump banning the media? The media has already declared war on Trump. The media hasn't been objective for the past 2 years, especially in terms of the election. Their only goal is not your welfare, my welfare, educating the country. Their only goal is a 2005 audio, playing it over and over and over again. Suddenly, the word was all over the place. I think CNN even put the actual word up on TV. The issue here is that we don't have a free media. Just with Walter Cronkite's searching or writing, investigating stories pertaining to journalism that is trying to uncover corruption within both parties. The Intercept does that. The Huffington Post does that. There's a couple. Counterpunch does that. But in terms of the New York Times, they're a public relations firm. They go after WikiLeaks. Why? Because WikiLeaks had the audacity of publishing information they would never publish. It is important to know the corruption within the DNC. It doesn't matter if it helps the rival party. There was already a media war. You can't have a war without two warring factions opposing sides. The inherent in the media war is a press that is no longer objective, that is only out for the people who own the Washington Post, the corporation that owns the Washington Post, or the corporations and media airtime, CNN, MSNBC, all of them, Fox, all of them gave free airtime to Trump. He got 33 times as much airtime as Bernie Sanders did. None of them really looked at Clinton Foundation scandals, the email investigation, none of them. And when you look if this is supposed to be such a horrible thing, it doesn't matter if the New York Times or the New York or CNN have access to a Trump briefing. They're going to condemn it anyway. It doesn't matter what he says, even if what he says makes sense, which a lot of times it doesn't. But it doesn't matter what he says. They're going to condemn it. So what does it matter if he bars them, if he bans them? I'm not for banning anything. But in this case, what he's doing is justified because it's not it's a charade. There is no objective media. Like I said, there's publications out there. The Intercept is one where they go after both parties. And that's what I try to do. I try to go after both parties. Some of my videos from my conservative viewers get 500 downvotes. I don't care. But I try to be as objective as possible. There is no objectivity. The New York Times is a public relations firm. CNN, I've been on it, had a great time, great experience. I'll probably be back on it again. But CNN exists to further the Democratic establishment narrative. So does MSNBC. So does Slate, Daily Beast, Vox. That's why the Daily Beast wrote a hit piece on me. Only because I wrote about Bernie Sanders. I wasn't even defending a Republican. I was writing about Bernie Sanders and they couldn't stand it. So they wrote a hit piece on me. That is tied into what Trump is doing. Trump knows there's a war. He just says, you know what? Let's call it what it is. You guys are banned. That's not good, but it's justified. Give me your thoughts below. Thank you so much for listening.